What's up, brand builders? Stephen Hurahan here on the Brand Master Podcast. And in this episode, we're diving into part 2 with Miichael Janda on how to increase your prices, get bigger clients, and grow your agency. Now, if you didn't catch part 1, I'll leave a link in the show notes description. But honestly, don't miss that episode. There is a ton of value in there, and we cover the principles of pricing your work, the core pricing structures, and how to upsell your clients to brand strategy. Now, in part 2, we're diving even deeper, and we're going to be discussing how to get bigger clients with bigger budgets and how to create game-changing systems for growth and scale. So if you want to learn how to increase your prices, get bigger clients, and grow your agency, and if you want to know the one thing that Miichael Janda would do right now to go from a one-person freelancer to a successful agency leader, then stick around for this episode of the Brand Master Podcast. Welcome to the Brand Master Podcast, a show specialized in helping branding professionals and entrepreneurs to build brands using strategy, psychology, and creative thinking. When it comes to client budgets, okay, at what point do you raise that, and how do you go about asking for that budget?
Yeah, I have in my sales framework a few different steps, and step number 1 is the qualification step. Mm-hmm. Where we get a new opportunity that comes across our company in some way. It might have come from a referral. It might have come from a repeating client. It might have come from some advertising or marketing that we did. Whatever it is, we got this lead. Mm-hmm. Now I'm going to go and sit with that client, and I'm going to either on the phone, in a video conference, or in person, and I'm going to qualify that person. I'm going to qualify them based on 3 different criteria. Mm-hmm. Big on frameworks. Criteria number 1 is this client even somebody I even want to work with?
Yep.
And if I want to work with them, then I'll proceed to qualify the number 2 item. And that's, is this project something that I can actually succeed on? Is this something we can do for them? Mm-hmm. Solve this problem for them? And then criteria number 3 is that budget right? Do they have enough money set aside, or are they willing to spend what it's going to take to solve the problem that they're coming to us with? So I do all of that in this qualification conversation with the client. You start asking about them, get a little vibe on, do we even like each other? Can we work together? Mm-hmm. Then I start asking a lot of questions about the project. Okay, so you came to me, you want to do a website. Why do you think you need a website? What do you need this website to do? What do your competitors' websites do that your website doesn't do? What do you hope the results to be from this website redesign? Just start asking questions about that project. And then after you've asked all the questions and you've shown genuine interest in this client and their problem, then you finish with saying something along the lines of, great, I think I understand this engagement. I think I understand what you're asking for, what you need. What budget do you have allocated to solve this for your company? Mm-hmm. You have a budget in mind that you're trying to work within. And then the client comes to you, and then they say, they'll either give you one of 2 responses. Response number 1 is, oh yeah, we have X number of dollars allocated, or a range. And response number 2, which is most common, is, oh, well, we're just getting bids. Want to see where people come back. And my experience says that every single client that I've ever sat with has a number in their head already. Mm-hmm. They have a number. They know what they want to kind of want to spend, but yeah, they do want to see what people bid it in as. And so they want a number from you. And if they come back with that response where they don't want to tell you the number, then you've got a couple of different strategies that you can use to try and extract that from them. Now,
I call that the fluffy number.
Yeah,
they've got a fluffy number.
They got a fluffy number. Yeah, it's good. So strategy number 1 is to just give them a range and to say, okay, well, I understand that you don't know what you want to spend. I can tell you that the last project that we did that was similar to what you're doing was around X number of dollars. But in your situation, we could probably be a little lower in the Y number of dollars range. So you give them a range. of a high number to a low number. And then if you decide not to be the one who says the number first, you can go and try and target them by saying something like, okay, well, I understand that you don't want to give us a number, but if we were going to compare your project or this engagement to a car brand, what car brand would it be? Are you wanting something high end with a lot of features that's just going to wow everybody on the road? Or are you just wanting to get from point A to point B? You want a Lamborghini, or do you want a Ford Focus? What do you want here? Because I'm not going to go and try and sell you on a Lamborghini if you're only trying to shop for the Ford Focus. So I got to kind of understand this budget, because it's going to affect the way that I come back to you with a proposed solution for your problem. Mm-hmm. So you can kind of use alternate items or alternate brand hierarchy to try and extract at least a sense of what they might want to spend, higher mm-hmm. end or lower end. Another one is to use clients or competitors of you, other agencies. And you can sit there and say, okay, well, I was just watching a video on YouTube yesterday, and it was from a designer who's done a lot of great design, and they have an agency and they charge $20,000 for an identity design. What kind of budget do you have? You got $20,000 to play with on this? So you're showing them a market value number. Or you can say, hey, I just saw the Pentagram redesigned Calendly, and mm-hmm. their Calendly brand, they spent $1.2 million on the rebrand. Mm-hmm. If you have $1.2 million, because that's what agencies are charging for this. And then, if you start throwing out numbers that are just astronomically higher than what your client is actually going to budget, but you're just talking about reality of what other people are spending on these kinds of things, oftentimes it helps the client be a little more forthright on wanting to say, whoa, well, don't send me a bid for 1.2 million. We're way less than that. Mm-hmm. We want to be in the, under $5,000 range.
Yeah.
So you just got to have that conversation. It's part of this qualification. And I don't want anybody out there bidding projects and proposing work when they don't have an understanding of the client's budget. You're just wasting your time. Mm-hmm. So you got to qualify them first.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love the anchoring as well. And the way you did it specifically with the last client or one of the last clients that we worked with was up here, but maybe with yours. So what you're doing is you're sending out the perception there that we look after bigger businesses, but we can look after you too. So that's what I really like about that angle. But it's simply a conversation. What did you have in mind? Did you have a budget set aside? Now, when it comes to kind of leveling up your clients, now you've worked with Google, Disney, Netflix. Yeah. How, Mr. Miichael Janda, did you get your foot in the door with these businesses? How?
So there are two ways that you can land big clients.
Okay, take notes, everybody. Get your pen and paper out.
Here's your two. And these, I believe these to be the only two options.
Okay.
Option number one, you have a relationship with somebody who is already there. And I was fortunate working at Fox. I built my relationships with a bunch of coworkers, and those coworkers ended up going to work for my first few clients: Sony, Disney, Warner Brothers. Mm-hmm. They were my friends, man. They were my friends I'd go to In-N-Out Burger with on Fridays, man. I mean, these were people that already trusted me. They already had worked with me, and they started new jobs, and that landed me new clients. So my first few clients were all just based on relationships. Now, what did I do when I started doing work for people at Disney? Well, I started making friends with all of their coworkers too. We'd fly to LA, man. I'd take 7 people out to lunch, and I would try and get to know all of them during my lunch meeting, because they could all become new clients for me. And I never did it because I wanted to get work out of them. I genuinely wanted to be friends with these people because I was one of those people, man. I was one working in LA and going to lunch with those same type of people. I had plenty to talk about. I was living out there. So I think I went with the build friendships with tons of people and then see where it lands. Now, if you want to land high-end clients, then you got to build relationships with people who work at high-end clients. And it's never been easier to do that than it is today because of the way social media is set up. I mean, you can go on, people do this with me all the time on my Instagram channel. They go and they start commenting on every single post that I post. They comment. And after they've commented on 3 of my posts, I recognize them. I might not follow them back yet, but I recognize them. And then they start sending me some DMs. And most of the time, they just genuinely want to be friends with me. And I genuinely want to be friends with as many people as I can. So I reply to all my DMs and I start building a relationship with them and they start building a relationship with me. I can't count the number of people I've referred into opportunities because of those relationships. Somebody comes to me and says, hey, do you know anybody who does this? And first thing I do is kind of scrub through my DMs looking for all my people and say, oh, this one does that. Well, that person spent time building a relationship with me and now I trust them and I'll share them with other people. So relationships, number one, that's the way that you're going to be able to get in with some of these people. You're going to say something, Stephen?
Yeah, it just goes back to what we said early in our chat. You know, we spend so much time researching what are the best practices for this, and you know what's the new software out there, what capabilities can we kind of what strings can we add to our bow, when really if you take the time to understand relationship building and people skills, they open doors. The simplicity of liking somebody's posts and then commenting and then DMing, it's a very simple system. And you know, you can do that. You can identify people who you would like to be able to work with, or people who could open doors for you. And, you know, as you said, you didn't do this for that reason, but the better you become at this and the more it's part of what you naturally do. And all you have to do is block out a little bit of time for it every single day and be consistent with it. Your name will start to pop up on people's radar, not because you're the best designer in the world, because you take the time for other people. And that's what opens doors. And I love that. I think it's an age-old strategy, and it's never going to go out of date.
It's never going to go out of date. And you can't, and robots can never take it over and do it for you. It's this relationship. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. That's the old adage. They know, like, and trust. Well, okay. You want to get more clients? Well, then you got to know a lot of people. You got to get them to like you, and you got to get them to trust you. That's how you're going to get business when it comes down to the base raw thing. Even if we're going cold, if we're cold messaging people, it's still, you got to cold message so many people. Then you got to build some trust with them before they're going to start sending you money. So I did this. I just did this last week. So I hired somebody on Fiverr to do some YouTube SEO for me. YouTube SEO, my videos. So what did I do first? I went and I looked at a whole bunch of different people on Fiverr that were advertising those services. And then I sent 3 of them an email, a DM through Fiverr. And I just said, hey, here's my situation. And here's kind of what I'm thinking. You know, the one that I hired was the person who replied back to me and said, hi, Miichael Janda. Thanks for reaching out. I definitely do white hat SEO. You're not going to get any kind of the scammy stuff from me. You're in the right place. What you were talking about is the way that I do that type of work. She used my name. She had an exclamation point. She was immediately likable and trustworthy in the way that she responded to me. in comparison to the other ones that were way more robotic. One of them replied with just a one-line thing. Yes, I do that. There's no effort there to try and foster
it's like the robots are here.
Trust with me.
It's like the robots are here already.
Yeah, it is.
And so, I said this to you. I said this to you before we hit record. You know, the reason that the first impression that I got from you when I came across you, I don't know when I came across you, a few years ago, was that you put it out. You put it on the line. You're your complete self. You're not trying to be anybody. You're not trying to put a facade on. You just being your personal self. And I think you coupled that with the genuine effort to go out there and mingle with people and interact with people. We're all looking for an edge. We're all looking to make more sales and to find more clients. That is a great strategy. Be yourself. Reach out to as many people as possible. Be genuine, make connections. I think that's a great strategy.
And one of my greatest joys in all the world are the people that have done that with me. And I feel like I've got friends in almost every country in the entire world after this last 2 years of building up my Instagram community primarily, and then my somewhat growing YouTube channel. It's like these relationships. I love it so much. That has all the value in the world to me, that I can fly to Russia or Estonia or Finland or wherever.
Australia.
And I got people, or Australia.
Or France next year.
In Australia. You know what? Australia has been an interesting one because the design community in Australia is amazing. I mean, there are some amazing designers and amazing design entrepreneurs down there that I've become really close friends with.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that before I started this journey. Anyway, relationships, man, it's the number one way you're going to get into any of these bigger clients. The number two way is reputation. You're going to build a reputation that makes them come to you. And I'll use an example. A friend of mine, he runs digital at FX Networks. And it feels like every year they were doing a rebrand and they were using the agency that won Ad Age Agency of the Year. That was who they were using. So the agency that wins the most coveted big award in the ad agency world is the agency that's getting the $2 million budget from FX Networks. Now, I did a ton of work for FX Networks, maybe 100 to 300 grand a year of revenue from them as a client. But it was all the underling stuff, man. It wasn't the rebrand of their entire digital interface. Never got to do that because that was the $2 million budget that didn't come to an agency like mine. So reputation is where you unlock the big budgets. Relationships is where you'll unlock the door into big clients or any client. But reputation is where you unlock the big budgets.
So to summarize that, you start the relationship, you build the relationship, you get your foot in the door, and then you over deliver to build that reputation. Is that?
It is. Or you build the reputation by getting written up in every single thing that there is. Michael Beirut has one of the best reputations in the creative world right now. How much does Michael Beirut charge for a rebrand that he orchestrates at Pentagram? How much does he charge for that work compared to Stephen in Australia? 1 million X. I mean, it's why can he get $1 million budget spent on an identity design, and you can get $10,000 spent on that same identity design? What's the difference? Is it that he's not even pushing the pixels around? It's not like he's busting out Illustrator and designing. I don't know him, but maybe he is, but I assume not. But he's not even doing the work, but they're buying based on his reputation. And so there are a number of different designers over the course of the history of design that have built a reputation like that. And then they get those big engagements coming to them with the big budgets. because they have that reputation. Paul Rand is another example. I mean,
that's it.
And go back to the 70s, 80s, 60s. Who's going to design your logo? The foremost logo designer in the history of the world.
Yeah.
Are his logos all that great? I mean, honestly, let's take a look at the logos. They're iconic, yes, but insanely innovative. I don't know, maybe at the time, but man, I know some logo designers that can logo design circles around Paul Rand, but they're never going to get the budget.
And that's it. And that's it. And I think, we have to be realistic with the goals that we set. And, when we set those goals, we have to kind of reverse engineer how we're going to get there. And that kind of segues into my next question for you, which is all about systems. How important are systems to your business? And for you specifically, what was the game-changing system that turned your small shop into that big agency?
It's a great question. I grinded for 2 years as a solo freelancer. I would kick out a couple projects here and there to my friends, but I didn't have any employees or anything. And I ended up working, 80 hours a week, and I was stressed out of my mind. I was afraid to hire. Excuse me. And then I was given the book by two different people, the book, The E-Myth Revisited by Miichael
Gerber.
Yeah, changed my life, man.
Yeah.
I met him one time and told him that. I was like, man, the whole concept here changed everything for me. And of course, he already knows that, because that's why he wrote the book, and he's changed a lot of entrepreneurs' lives as a result of it. The idea behind the E-Myth is that the entrepreneurial myth is that, the entrepreneur, look at them, they're so successful. The reality of the entrepreneur is that most entrepreneurs are just grinding all day long, making the stuff that their business does. Mm-hmm. If you're a logo designer and people can say, look at them, they're so good. Look, it's great. It's got this great logo design business. The reality is that they're spending 15 hours a day cranking out logo after logo with no end in sight, stressed out. And the reason that there's no end in sight is because they haven't figured out how to replicate themselves. Mm-hmm. And replicating yourself has to be done with systems. You have to say, okay, if I'm going to hire somebody to do this work the way that I do this work, I've got to plug them into a systematic way that I do this work. And this has come to the way that I ran my business and the way that I write my books and the things that we've talked about here. The 3 things you qualify a client on, the 3 variables that you price projects on, all of it came out of systems that I created for my agency to be able to replicate what I do on a qualification phone call. So that I could say to my right-hand person, okay, you're going to get on a qualification phone call. Here's how you do it. Ask these 23 questions and then qualify them based on the client, the project, and the budget. And then come to me and we'll decide if we're going to take on the work or not. And it all came out of systems. So what was the one system, the game-changing system that changed everything for my business? It was creating systems for every single thing that my business did. That was the game changer. Down to scripts. I share a lot of scripts in my content. I'm not rewriting those scripts. For those scripts, I'm like pulling out of my old agency documentation. It's stuff that I would give to my people and say, hey, if the client says this, then you say this. It's scripts and checklists and you create it for every single thing that you do so that you can replicate your behavior across other people that you hire. And it's a game changer.
It absolutely is. And something that I, as a starting point for that, something that I recommend to the listeners to do is to create a role map. So a role map is kind of like an org chart, but instead of putting people in the boxes, you put the roles that are within your business and the tasks within each and every role. And that's when you can start to really identify, where you could get somebody in to do this job, into this particular role. And that's when you can start to let go. But as you just said, it's really about replicating yourself. When you're able to replace yourself in your business, that's when you can step back and start working on your business instead of being caught up in, in that grind, just bashing out logos again and again and again. And so if there's a freelancer listening to this right now and they're in that phase and they've got these clients and they're putting on the sales hat and they're putting on the design hat and they're putting on the marketing hat, what would you say would be, if you were in their position right now, what would be the first thing that you would do to change that? Let's say you wanted to rebuild Riser or rebuild another agency. What would be the first thing that you would do?
I made a mistake. I waited way too long to hire. I was afraid to hire because I didn't understand what kind of cash flow I was going to need or anything like that. The advice that I give people now is the advice that I wish that I would have had. You need 3 to 6 months of cash flow available to your business. That's your safety net, your warm blanket so you can sleep at night. But anything beyond the 3 to 6 months is subject to reinvestment into your business. Now, I'll give you an example. Let's say that you need $5,000 per month to run your business right now. You're out there, you're a freelancer working out of your house, need $5,000 a month to keep things going. So you have 15 grand in the bank. That's 3 months of cash flow coverage. Now you look at it and say, okay, if I'm going to hire another designer, and let's just say for easy math, I'm going to hire them for $5,000 a month, just like me, and we're both going to make 10 grand a month. Now I need $30,000 in my cash flow calculation. And if I have that $30,000 of cash flow, then I can hire that person. Anything beyond that, let's say you have $50,000 in your cash flow and you have that designer and your business is costing $10,000 a month, $30,000 in 3 months, you've got 20 grand that you can reinvest into your business right now by hiring more people if you choose to do that. I didn't hire anybody. I'm not kidding. I had paid off my house and I had like 200 grand in the bank. And so I needed, for my own personal income, I needed like $3,000 a month to feed my family and pay my utilities. That was it. But I'm sitting here with $200,000 in the bank and no debt. And I was still afraid to hire because I didn't have anybody tell me, hey, Mike, you're a total idiot. Go and hire 7 people, man. Go hire 7 people and build this as a business, because look at all this cash flow you have and you have the money to risk on this reinvestment into your business. Nobody told me that. And as a result, I waited way too long to hire. When I started hiring and I caught the vision, I went from me to 5 employees in an office space inside of a year because I finally got over the fear of it. So the one-liner rule, anything you have in beyond 3 months of your safety net is subject to reinvestment. If you've got money or cash flow beyond that, then reinvest it. Go and hire some people. Your worst case scenario is in 3 months, you have no work and you have to let them go and you spent your safety net. Well, big deal. You can build your safety net back up again and you can let that employee go if you have to. The likelihood of that is very low. Most people, when they get the increased overhead, it sparks an increased motivation to grind and find work, and it changes the perception of the clients of the client's vision of your business. They start looking at you saying, whoa, they're growing. And then you can start charging more because you're growing, you're a bigger agency. So the client says yes to bigger budgets because of that. They start giving you bigger projects because of it. So most of the time, hiring people is a catalyst to growth, as much as it is a reaction to growth. It can be a catalyst to growth.
Yeah, I love that, and I think that's the biggest hurdle for most people is the idea of replacing themselves. Well, I can't let go of this because I need to do that. And once you step outside of that and you realize that, once you create systems and you record videos on how you actually do this, then you can bring somebody in to watch it again and again and again until they can do it. And that's when you can start to let go and realize that once you replace yourself, then you can start to really grow. Mate, this has been an absolute blast. There's been so many nuggets of gold right throughout this, so that the listeners are going to get an absolutely ton of value from this. So thank you so much for coming on the show. For anybody that wants to get in touch with Miichael Janda, want to follow your stuff, where's the best place that they can go to get in touch?
Instagram is still my baby. That's where I have my biggest community. So you can check me out on Instagram at @morejanda on Instagram, or my website, miichaeljanda.com. I have a newsletter that I send out each week that's just value content that I try and share with creative entrepreneurs. My whole Instagram feed is filled with a bunch of value content. I honestly, this industry has been good to me, and I am grateful. And I never had a mentor, and I'm trying to be the mentor for as many creatives as I can find, because I had to just slave it away on a tear-soaked pillow for so many years, trying to grind it out and figure it out. I never had anybody who was sharing with me these little secrets that can help me grow. So I'm trying to give away every secret I can.
Mate, I love that. And I love your Instagram feed. You can tell that you spend the extra time on those little posts to jam in so much value into a few slides that, it's no wonder you've got, I don't know, man, you've got 140,000 followers or something like that at this stage.
158,000.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So,
beautiful. And
good.
There's a reason for it. And thank you so much for coming on the show. And those friendships that you're making, you just made another one. So
I know, man. That's what I love about these. Like every time I do a podcast with somebody, I'm like, hey, I got another friend.
Awesome.
I love it.
Ooh, friends. So
it's so good. It's so good. And where does it go? Who knows? 10 years from now, we could be doing whatever together on something, or feeding clients, or more collaborations. I mean, it's just, the more people you know, the better, the richer your life is going to be. And not always monetarily, but just in your soul.
That's it.
You're going to have a richer life. Yeah.
That's it. Absolutely beautiful. And on that note, thank you very much, my man.
All right. Thank you.
I'll look forward to catching up with you at some stage in the future. No doubt that's going to happen.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
We really hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks so much for listening. If you want to learn more brand strategy techniques to level up your skills, make sure you check out brandmasteracademy.com. There's plenty of free resources and premium content for you to download and get you going. If you'd like to join our Facebook group full of like-minded brand strategists, all learning from each other, then find us by searching for the Brand Strategy Community, where you can find exclusive content for members as well. If you enjoyed this content, please be sure to give us an honest review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you listened, and make sure you tune in for the next episode of the Brandmaster Podcast.